Welcome back to our lesson on international trade. With international trade, our supply and demand analysis does become a bit more complicated. The reason for this, we're not dealing with just one country, right? Each country will have its own separate demand and supply curves, and the equilibrium is not going to be at the intersection for either. So let's consider some product. We're just going to call it product X. We're going to keep it generic. This could be whatever. Bananas, coffee, computers, anything you want to think of. And we have country A. And country A has we'll say it's a large demand and a small supply, which makes it for a very high price for country A, right? And that is a price for country A if there's no trade. Now country B is in a bit of a different situation here. Perhaps they also consume quite a bit of the product, but they're also efficient at supplying the product. This gives a different price for country B if there were no trade. Well, if there's international trade, and this does make the assumption that there's no interference with trade. So if there is international trade, we know that people in country A would love to try to buy from firms in country B because the price will be lower. Well, what is that going to do? That'll actually induce more firms to provide the product, right? We see in country B, if there's no international trade, you have this group of suppliers who won't sell the product because they're not getting a high enough price. But given the price we're seeing in country A, there's a lot of people who would love to pay these low prices for the product. Well, what happens with international trade then? With international trade, you're going to see country A exporting to country B, who will import. And what price will this occur at? This will occur at what we call the world price. One price for the world. Now this does assume there's no transaction costs, there's no trade barriers, and the shipping is free. So there are some real world issues that do come into play. But usually those, if you do have free trade between countries, which there are a lot of countries that do allow free trade between them, you would expect the price of products between these countries then to drop to be uniform across the countries once you after you convert for exchange rates and everything. Because if they weren't, you could actually see arbitraging. If it's more expensive in one country than another, you could see people buy it in the cheap country and then sell it in the more expensive country. And that would happen until the prices are equal.